Hello everyone, my name is Timo Elliott and I'm an innovation evangelist with SAP. And today I have the great honor to talk to Dr. Astrid Fontaine, member of the Board of Management at Bentley Motors, in charge of people, digitalization and IT. Astrid, welcome. Now, your role involves leading Bentley's human resources function, as well as the delivery of the company's digital transformation and IT services. It's an unusual combination. Could you give us some more background?
Well, first of all, hello, Timo, and thank you very much for having the opportunity today to speak to this great community. From my point of view, actually, it is not so unusual because if you're thinking about what are the main drivers of transformation for the companies, right? What are the underlying forces when you go across all the functions? It is in the end, the people, the processes, and the technology. And that's exactly the three areas that I'm combining. Trying to drive this underlying change of Bentley.
Now, talking about change, Bentley is a luxury car company. You have a long tradition of craftsmanship and a long history, but you're in an industry that is changing very quickly. How does technology help Bentley navigate these changes? And has the pandemic slowed you down, or did it actually accelerate change?
Well, allow me maybe to start with the second part of your question, right? And I think like any other company out there, we have just seen over the last 18 months, the acceleration of change in a crisis. So if we were in the past 100-year-old, very traditional company where everybody came to work every day, everybody was here on site, we have been for the last 18 months, at least 60% of our workforce been fully remotely. Not back to the office ever since we had a shutdown last year in March. Because in the end for us, the overarching principle when COVID started was people first. It was about their safety and getting them home. And here is where it kicks in regarding the technology. Because getting people home and still being able to run the business processes. So everything I would say outside of really hands-on manufacturing the car. So everything outside the shop floor. We were only able to do that and keep the company running because of technology. And I think we had a good foundation, but the last 18 months have accelerated this view of end-to-end processes and complete digitalization of the end-to-end processes.
So let's talk a little bit more about the technology side of things. You use SAP technology in a number of areas, including SAP Marketing Cloud for customer engagement, SAP SuccessFactors for human resources. But in general, what's your strategy for IT, so cloud versus on-premise or working with different vendors?
Mm-hmm. Overall, our strategy is, of course, first to identify, as mentioned, what are our end-to-end processes and how can we secure that these processes are supported. And quite often, of course, it is like in our hire to retire process, so the entire people process, it is one solution, which is SuccessFactors. So we have SuccessFactors end-to-end to support us from getting out there, outreach, finding candidates, all the way through recruitment, all the way to employee engagement, etc. And that is, of course, our preferred way of working, to have it in one concise solution, have it in a cloud, and of course, then for our employees to have the convenience of app solutions. That might not always be possible because you might have legacy systems that you cannot easily replace. And in that case, it then becomes this mixture of potential technologies and partners, which is, for example, especially along the side of manufacturing. We are talking Industry 4.0, but Industry 4.0 is not one system, right? It's a combination of on-premise and in cloud. And the criticality here is to make sure that the data between those different solutions remains in flow and consistent.
And then talking about innovation outside the four walls of Bentley Motors, how important is technology when you're working along the supply chain, your ecosystem of suppliers and partners? And do you see that changing over time, the collaboration between yourself and the other organizations that come together to create those customer experiences?
Mm-hmm. I think when you look into the topic supply chain, that topic has never been as crucial and as, let's say, stress tested as over the last 18 months. So if we wouldn't have had that integration and technology connectivity with our suppliers worldwide, right, we wouldn't have been able to manage this COVID crisis together, keep us running, making sure the parts are here on time. And still till today, in some topics, in some parts, we are running just with a 2 weeks notice on availability. And these short time frames are only possible to manage because of the technology behind it.
Thank you. Another big theme is supporting sustainability efforts. IT organizations doing their part. Are you seeing this in Bentley? Does technology help you calculate or optimize your carbon footprint, for example?
Mm-hmm. I mean, technology helps us, for example, on the one end, of course, right now in the last 18 months of avoiding travel, right? Very simple and straightforward. That we have these conferences here today digitally, nobody needs to travel, no CO2 being created. That is technology on its simplest form. But then, of course, it is as well when it comes to the topic that technology helps us. I come back to my passion about the digital transformation and getting our processes end-to-end digital, because it means as well, you no longer need to print anything, you don't need to sign anything, you no longer file anything. It is electronically, right? And that saves us hundreds of trees just for Bentley alone per year. I mean, we would have in normal years with old technology been between 800 and 1,000 trees of paper that we're using here. We are already now down to 400, and we're aiming to get it even further down by next year. So clear targets to go as far as we just can take it to go paperless. And then finally, third point on sustainability is regarding developing products that are more sustainable. So thanks to digital prototyping and the whole suite that we can have in engineering, we're able to do a lot of these testings and certifications nowadays with the digital world in mimicking it. And we don't have to take the cars for miles and miles on the road all the time. So that's for me a third part where as well technology helps us.
Changing topics up slightly, you're a former professor of digital enterprise at Emory University, the Goizueta Business School. What did you find was the hardest thing for your students to understand during your courses?
For me, the hardest thing was for students that haven't been yet out really and worked in companies is to understand that not all companies are digital natives. The majority of companies have a legacy, right? We are brownfield. If you talk about any kind of changes here, any digital transformation, you need to take in consideration that there are systems that have been around, maybe worst case, 10, 20 years. And they are on premise, and no, they're not that easy to get the data and to integrate the data in this beautiful new world of everything in the cloud and everything mobile. So I think for some of them it was hard to grasp that you need to take those limiting factors sometimes in consideration, and you need to find creative ways. And you can't just rip everything out because there's no business case, right? To sometimes rip out legacy systems and replace them with new systems if the new system is not really giving you a lot of productivity gains on your cost side.
It's always about pragmatic innovation, doing the best with what you already have.
Correct.
In a related question, how do you think the job of the CIO has changed over the years? In particular, do you think you'll see more CIOs take over some of the human resources and change management side of things? What advice would you give to younger IT leaders in more traditional organizations that would like to move towards this vision?
For me, the CIO clearly needs to be the person in the company that is the change agent. It's the driver of transformation. So on the one hand, they need to see if there are problems in the company, how can technology fix it? But they also need to be the ones that see the opportunities, right? Of I'm seeing this technology, this opportunity out there. What can it help the company? So they need to be the ones that are coming to the functions proactively with ideas, suggestions, and how to make this world a better world, and not just wait for the functions to come to the IT and say, hey, I need. So I'm really aspiring those CIOs that are these visionaries and that are challenging the business on the art of what's possible.
So in some ways, you're an evangelist. I absolutely approve. So what would be your what would be your biggest advice to business and IT leaders who are listening and that might help them in their transformation efforts? Something that they not necessarily obvious.
So my advice to anybody out there who's responsible for transformation and change, and let it be IT or business, it doesn't matter. But if you are running transformation, I would focus on 4 very basic topics, which is number 1, what is your burning platform? Why do you have to change? And what happens if you don't change, right? Number 2, what is the North Star? Where do you want to be if you succeeded with the transformation? Number 3, what is the roadmap? How are you getting from this burning platform to that North Star? And number 4, to make sure that you always talk about the journey. Where are you in the change right now? Where are you in the process? What have we accomplished? What is still to come? And that would be my very simple advice, to run it simple. Focus on 4 areas and don't overdo it in the communication, or you lose the people along the way.
Thank you. I'm sure it's less simple when you try and actually do it in practice. Such is life. Let's look forward to the future now. What future technology trend are you most excited about and why?
I think I'm excited about 2 topics. One is the topic regarding data. So this vision of a fully smart company really gets me excited. To have the data, full insights from your customers, but also from the cars in development, making sure that you can now cross-reference the data, right? For example, knowing what the warranty out there was and being able to trace warranty topics all the way back to manufacturing, able to change topics on the manufacturing line, or seeing topics that are going now into the next design of a car or a part. So having a full smart company on a complete data level. That's for me super exciting. And on that then as well, the topic about the artificial intelligence, being able to make predictions of that data. So can't wait to have it in place.
So more data, more automation, more intelligence. Any final thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with?
My theme is always run simple, run fast. So if you are out there to make a change and to transform, don't wait.
Astrid, thank you so much for your time. It's been a great pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Timo. It was a pleasure.
And of course, if anybody would like any information about those beautiful Bentley cars, don't hesitate to visit bentleymotors.com. Thank you and goodbye.